All right, what is going on? Welcome back to the show. Today, I am joined by Courtney Ustrzycki. I said that right, correct?
Yeah.
Perfect. Courtney, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited today.
Of course, I'm stoked for this conversation. So, I really want to dive into your backstory, but first and foremost, before we get too deep into that, can you give the listeners just a quick background on what you're up to right now?
Yes, I'm currently living in Mexico. So for those who don't know me, I'm actually originally from Canada. I moved to Mexico like 2.5 years ago, and I am doing online, more so nutrition and strength coaching, but I'm sure we'll get into it in a little bit, more so with my backstory. But what I do is so much more than just like nutrition and training. And for anyone who is kind of like an online coach or in that kind of field, I'm sure you understand that it is so much more than just like, I call it delicious food points and exercise.
Right.
So I go through like all of like mindset work and confidence and just feeling empowered and kind of just like helping people, more so women, take control of their life and feel confident and strong in everything.
I love it. And your content very much. I originally heard you on Mike Milner's podcast, and then I know you listen to the podcast a bit as well, but your content very much resonated with me. I feel like our messages in a way are very aligned, which is a big reason that I wanted to have you on. I love everything you talked about, but I'd really like to dive into your backstory and really how you got here today. What originally got you into fitness in the first place?
Oh my gosh. So funny, like I didn't go to school for fitness or nutrition or exercise or anything like that. I was actually a graphic designer, and my first year of college, I had the typical like freshman 15, which was, let's be real, was more like freshman 20 or 30. And I started like kind of working out, and it was fun. And I feel like I'm kind of like, I don't know, a typical female. I was watching, I was reading like the magazines, and obviously like Instagram and a lot of internet stuff did not exist, but I was reading a lot of the magazines and following those programs. And I started working out because I thought that would offset my excessive drinking in college, which, spoiler alert, it doesn't, for those who don't know. And honestly, it was just like a huge snowball effect. Like I went throughout all my 5 years of college getting into graphic design. I kept working out and I loved it. And it was really like a snowball effect until I started my career as like a full-time graphic designer. And I was literally just the manager of a gym walked up to me one day and said, "I've been watching you. I really like what you're doing. Do you want to be a personal trainer?" And unfortunately, I did the whole like weekend course and I was certified in a couple days. But since then, that was, oh my goodness, like 5 years ago. And it's just been a snowball effect of learning, constant education, and then just figuring out how I can do more and what avenues we're missing out on. And I realized it was more than just being a personal trainer. There was all the other hours in the days and the weeks. So it was focusing on nutrition. And then from that, like I said, it's so much more than just delicious food points and exercise. It's like, what about everything else that's going on in life, like all the other moving parts? So it's been like a crazy snowball effect from just getting a weekend course as a personal trainer and my, I don't know, CanFit Pro certification up in Canada, and then just learning from there and constantly growing until I got to where I am. And I built my business online because about 2.5 or 3 years ago, I wanted to travel. My boyfriend at the time, he was back in school. So we were considering kind of relocating to probably somewhere in the States for him to go do his schooling and then be a full-time worker there as like a strength coach. And so I was like, okay, well, I can be online and we can go wherever. Unfortunately, the relationship didn't last. So I was like, well, I have this business online, or for the most part, I have this structure online. I hated living in Canada because I got really bad seasonal depression, and the winter months are absolutely grueling. And I loved traveling to the Caribbean, going down to Cuba. So I was like, why don't I just go work somewhere else?
Right.
So I kind of hopped around a little bit and then just landed in Mexico, and I friggin' loved it. So I've been here for 2.5 years.
I love it. I love it. And I don't think that winters in Nebraska, which is where I'm from, are quite like they are in Canada. But that's definitely why I moved to Arizona as well. And that's the beauty of like having an online business. You can,
Yeah.
you're so free to go wherever. You very much skimmed over the fact that you just completely quit being a graphic designer and decided to do personal training. Was that a hard decision for you? It doesn't sound like it was.
Yes, because I'm sure like you and most people, like you grow up in a family where it's like there's still the, I don't know if you want to call it North American or just typical societal expectations is like you grow up, you go to school, you get your degree or diploma, whatever, you get a job in that field, you find a company with good benefits, you get married, the house, the kids, like all that, and you just kind of settle.
Right.
So I absolutely came from that family and the upbringing. So when I was a graphic designer, I had a phenomenal job. I was working for a great company with phenomenal benefits. I had this amazing contract, like everything was great.
Right.
And for me to shift from that to a personal trainer, for those who have ever worked in a commercial gym as a personal trainer, especially when you were starting out, you get like the worst pay cut of
Right.
your life.
Right.
Like I racked up within my first year of being a personal trainer, I accumulated $10,000 of debt because my cost of living or my means of living, I would say, was
Right.
definitely higher than what I was earning. So that took a huge plummet. And then I was like, how the heck am I going to dig myself out of that? So it was extremely hard. And I hate being I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs or those kind of like-minded people hate the thought of diving into something and then failing and then
Right.
admitting that you're failing. So for me, I was just like, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to see what I can do. I know that what I'm doing is right. But I need to learn how to be better and how to improve my education so that I can be a good trainer and I can be better and I can improve my business. So yeah, it was definitely hard, but it was something that of course I needed that stepping stone to get to where I am. So I look back and I'm really proud of myself for not giving up.
That is dope. Okay. I love it. Um, when you were weighing like, okay, graphic design, have this comfortable job versus I could go all in on training at a big box gym essentially. And like maybe in the future I can build this, but right now it's definitely going to be a grind. What was like your deciding factor? Like, okay, fitness is a thing for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. My fitness for me or working out was like a passion, and I think in the back of my mind I always knew I could fall back on graphic design.
Right.
So if it didn't work, or I was doing freelancing on the side as well, so I was doing like a few little jobs here and there, which was always okay. But I think I had a lot of reassurance and support as I started to be a personal trainer, because I told my manager, my boss at the time, I was like, I'm losing like to a really like a good company, and I'm losing out on a lot of benefits and cuts. And have you ever worked at a big box gym?
Yes,
Okay, so you understand that it's all like sales, and
for sure.
like
Yeah.
they don't really care about the clients, unfortunately, but they just care about numbers, and
Right.
they're salespeople, right? So I definitely got sold in terms of like, no, you're going to be great. We're going to help you out. We're going to make sure you're successful. And I drank. We called it. I'm not going to say the brand name, but we drank the juice, right? And that's kind of like what we did. And I believed that I was going to be successful because they were going to help me there. So it was a huge like risk, and I wasn't completely sure of it or certain of it, but they kind of supported me and told me that everything was going to be okay. So I believed them.
But regardless, it worked out very well for you. And that's why I spent a long time in big box gym. And I had very similar, like when I left, I kind of had a bad taste in my mouth, but I also wouldn't trade that experience for anything because very much like I got to work with a shit ton of clients. I learned all these skills. And also like
Mhm.
you learn what you don't want to happen in your own service, right?
Exactly. Yeah. When you run your own business, you're like, this is what I'm not going to do. Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. I love that. So let's dive into then a bit. You talk a lot about, and you just dropped an episode about why you work with women specifically. Which I love that one, by the way. I would
Thank
love
you.
to dive into as far as like women specifically in the fitness industry. What do you feel like are the biggest kind of mind fucks that you see your clients come to you with, and kind of how you help coach them through that? Now, I know that's a very broad question, so feel free to take this whatever direction you want.
I could go in like every direction. We could talk about this for the next hour. I'll narrow it down to one. And I think the biggest mindfuck is the lack of understanding, because how many people like just do things and they don't know why they do them.
Right.
Like everyone, especially women, I feel like we get suckered into all the crap, and I absolutely blame the media for it. It is social media, it is magazines, it is like things in the newspaper, fitness, fashion, like everything. There's so much of a lack of understanding, and it's because of all like the gimmicks that we're made to believe. Not wanting to, or wanting to get toned but not wanting to build muscle, right? So women have believed that they can get toned, but building muscle is like not for them, right? Or being fixed on the scale, which limits them from actually building muscle in order to have this like toned look that they want.
Right.
So I think that just the biggest mindfuck is the lack of understanding. So that's usually what I try to focus on with my clients. And I tell them right from the beginning, like, my job is to teach you. I don't want them to come to me and say, I want you to tell me what to do. I
Right.
want to teach them so that they know what to do on their own. If any of my clients, whoever is listening to this, they know that I ask questions.
Right.
And I'm sure you've heard of it. It's like the 5 whys. You
Mhm.
just keep asking like, why? And then you finally get the answer. Like I kind of flip it on them, and it's almost like I get them to answer the questions for themselves because they know it, but they
Right.
pretend like they don't know it.
Right.
And then once they know it, they feel confident and they're like, oh, I can do this. So that's kind of like what I do and how I coach my clients through it. Or they come to me and they say, I want to look toned like you. I'm like, okay, well, one, I'm not toned, but this is the lack of understanding because that's what social media shows us or tells us. And I definitely try not to take it as an insult when they tell me that. I'm like, thank you, but. And then I know that there's been a lot of talk. I don't know if you've seen it on social media, and it's talking about a lot of coaches have been saying, your body is not your resume, or your body is not your billboard. And I am like, I have to make a podcast about this or some kind of like content about this, because I totally agree with it. But I feel like for those who know me and know what I look like, I feel like it can be very misleading. Kind of like, oh, it's easy for you to say because you have abs,
Right.
or you are super lean, or you're toned or whatever.
Right.
But I tell my clients, like, look at me and look how much I can lift. This is about building muscle, and I'm not huge from it. So it's teaching them and giving them a better understanding about more so resistance training, yes, strength training as well, but just teaching them kind of the difference and how to better understand when we work out and why we work out and the purpose of building muscle.
Right. Right.
I absolutely love teaching women like how to use barbells and dumbbells, the free weights, so they can feel their body, so they can build their body, like be more confident, with balance, with stability, movement, like basic healthy primal movement patterns. So yeah, coaching my clients through all of that, teaching them the basics and teaching them how to better understand, more so when it comes to fitness.
I love that. So basically, you're saying it really for you comes down to, and again, I think we're very much in alignment here. A couple things I want to touch on there, but essentially, it comes down to like when someone starts and they want to build like a quote unquote toned physique. It's educating, like you said, like, hey, this actually means that you need to build muscle and maybe lose fat, right? And that's very much like a whole different. I kind of go back and forth, kind of a random tangent here as well, but I kind of go back and forth on the whole like, are we using the phrase tone? Because I would also start argue sometimes that like, okay, maybe if I tell this person like, hey, tone isn't actually a thing. Let's use the phrase hypertrophy next time. Like, you're hypertrophy in your muscle or not. They're gonna be like, well, fuck you. I don't even understand what that means. So I think sometimes there's a time and place to kind of like, hey, we're
Yes.
meeting you where you're at with your language, but also like you're alluding to here, we're educating you on like, okay, this isn't like this program that's gonna, hey, we're gonna lengthen your muscles, but they're not actually gonna grow, right? Like, we're very much building muscle, and that's for most people. Like, for 99% of people, I think that building a focus on strictly like, hey, we're fueling you to build muscle is like one of the biggest pieces most people are missing from their physique, right?
Yes.
And
Absolutely. They just want to get like I'm sure everyone comes to a coach and they're like, I just want to lose body fat.
Right.
And it's like, well, if you keep losing body fat and if you have no muscle on your base, then you're just going to look like a soggy skeleton bag. And
Right.
nobody wants to look like a soggy skeleton bag. Let's be
Right.
real.
No, exactly. And that's, I mean, I don't necessarily love the term skinny fat, but I think that's kind of like where that comes from. Like, I know for me, the first time I went on a diet, I completely cut carbs. I was following like very much strength training geared towards hypertrophy, and I just everything turned into a circuit and burned as many calories as I can. And at the end of it, I was like, what happened to me? Like, like, and that's the same for anyone listening to this. Like, getting stronger, building and maintaining muscle, no matter what your goals are. Like, if you, for a quote unquote tone physique, if we're going to use that term again, that's one of the biggest pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny. I'm gonna go off on like a super slight tangent on this, but I just finished my workout today.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who don't know, I'm a power lifter. I try to be a power lifter. I'm not the best, but I definitely try. And I've gone through like over the last year, I've gone through 2 bikini competition preps, and it's
Wow.
fun. It's great to see like my composition like transform and all of that. But for me, there is nothing more empowering and like confident. I have goosebumps just talking about this right now. I deadlifted 300 pounds for the first time in like well over a year. My all-time max is 310 pounds.
Let's go.
And for me to pull that, like I literally just jumped up and down in the gym. And I don't care when things like that happen, like I don't care what I look like. I don't care what my body fat percentage is. I don't care if I have visible abs. It's like I'm strong. And I just deadlifted like almost 3 times my body weight. And that is friggin' amazing. And I know how good it feels. And that's the whole reason why I want to show my clients how amazing it is to strength train and to resistance train. Because it's like, well, if you can do that, what else can you do in your life?
Right. Right. And that's really like the thing isn't like training and nutrition are the thing, but it's not really the thing, right? It's like the carryover to the rest of your life. And I think like you alluded to there, one of the most empowering things and like confidence boosting things for so many people is taking the focus of, at least for a good period of time, away from like how do I look to like setting performance goals. Like the carryover from like helping someone achieve their first pull up to like confidence in all these other areas of their life is huge, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think as much you get that from like I achieved a certain aesthetic goal.
Yeah, like the aesthetic goals are great, but I'm sure like when you've gone through it and when you diet down and you get really skinny and lean and toned and whatever you want to call it and you can see your abs, like usually there's a lot of negative effects that come with it. And when you're like, I'm hungry, I can't sleep now, women are missing their periods, there's no sex drive, like I've heard a lot of people like it hurts to sleep when they get like competition lean because like they're laying on their bones and like it hurts. It's like, okay, it's great. You look good for a really short amount of time, but it's like, what about feeling strong and being able to do stuff on your own? And that's a huge reason why I got into powerlifting like 4 years ago, because it was like I want to focus on something that isn't aesthetics based. And my aesthetic is like a huge byproduct of yes, my genetics, but also my lifestyle. So that's why I just love powerlifting, and I kind of indirectly like force my clients to powerlift. I'm like, I'm gonna prep you for a competition and you don't know it, but yeah.
I love it.
Anyway, I'm on a tangent.
No, I couldn't agree more with it, where your head is at there. Though one of the most, very much more so even over the last few years, I've been pushing so many more of my clients to enter building phases. And well, like we focus much more on like overall, we could say like an aesthetic based style of training. So like I don't work with very many people that are power lifters. Like we're going to focus on functional strength and more like a functional bodybuilding style of training, we could say.
Yeah.
But like again, the goals are performance, the goals are building muscle and fueling your body. Because like you said, like when you're to the point where it hurts to sleep, that shit isn't sustainable, nor is it fun. But so many people are just caught up in this like, for years and years and years, just trying to stay that lean. And it really feels terrible.
Yeah.
Kind of a different tangent that I want to take this with you. Being someone that has a pretty big following, has it been hard for you, just even from like feeling social pressure, to detach from like, I'm going to focus on powerlifting instead of just like purely the aesthetic side of things and staying as lean as possible, even for like how I look on Instagram?
Not how I look on Instagram. In all honesty, I feel like how I look versus what I talk about, in a way, I feel like it does me a disservice because it's almost like oh, well, it's easy for you to say because
Mhm.
you have abs. When I say, I don't care what I look like, I don't care about my visible abs, but here I am walking around with like a 6 or an 8 pack, I don't even know,
Right.
like all the time, where here I am telling my clients, don't worry about your abs. They mean nothing to you. Like that is pure genetics and I cannot help that.
Right.
But I feel like it also gives me a little bit of a platform to speak on because I can tell women, okay, I'm sure you can understand. A lot of people come to me and they say, how many calories are you eating? Or what's your ab workout? And when I
Right.
say, oh, I'm eating like 400 grams of carbs every day and I'm not doing any cardio and I don't train my abs, like they're, what? Oh my gosh, like they're blown away, which I love because I'm kind of like, hey, you don't have to do a crap ton of cardio. But again, it's also my genetics and I can't help that. It's
Right.
not the same for everybody. So in a way, like I feel like my social media platform can benefit that because I can say you don't have to do all of this crazy cardio in order to look like this, but at the same point, just because you do what I do doesn't mean you're going to look the same way. And I feel like it's the whole, oh, it's easy for you to say because you live in a bikini and eat tacos and everything, you know?
No, no, I agree 100%. That's something I was interested with you. I feel like I've definitely been on both sides of that. Like right now I'm building and my abs are not I'm feeling pretty fluffy right now because we're like towards the tail end of a bulk. So it's been very interesting to go through both sides of like when I very first started putting myself out there on social media, like being a lot leaner versus even for me, it's like, fuck, like I post this, people are gonna see like my face looks all fluffy now. Like it's I just genuinely wonder your thoughts on that because it's a super interesting topic. And I know like some of my other clients that are coaches that I'm like taking through building phases right now, as well the like mental side of like, hey, we have to be okay with like maybe not being as lean to continue to progress and get closer to goals. I feel like that's very challenging I know it's challenging for me as well. So I just wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah, I am trying to, okay, well, it's like I'm trying to gain weight, but more so I'm trying to gain strength. So
Right.
I'm increasing my calories and like I know that there is a chance that the scale is going to go up. If
Right.
it doesn't go up, I'm okay with it as long as my strength is going up because we know there's a difference between like muscle size and muscle strength.
Right.
So my goal right now is to get stronger, not necessarily get bigger, but I know that getting bigger is a highly likely byproduct of getting stronger. So I'm still very open. I'm sure you've seen on my social media. I am very open and honest, like in terms of I do share my struggles and I
Right.
do share some things on my mind. So it's always, I don't know, I just use social media as kind of like a journal
I love it. That's
with friends.
one thing I really respect about you. You are very transparent about where you're at, and even like talking about like you just talked about with your abs. Like you're ripped, but like you putting out there, like yeah, like a lot of this probably is just my genetics, and you following my program won't necessarily make you look exactly like me. Like that's one thing I definitely have to commend you for because I really respect the way you go about that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that that's always like the first thing I get. Like I said, I get a lot of women coming to me and they're like, I want to look like you. And I've very bluntly said it on social media, you will never look like me. I don't care if you follow my program, if you do the exact same workouts I do, if you eat the same time I do, sleep the same way I do, live the same way I do. There are still so many factors that you can't have because this is my lifestyle and also it's my genetics.
Right. Right.
So I always make sure that is very clear with not just my clients, but anyone who's like body goals. I'm like,
Right.
no, no, no. You shut your mouth right now.
I love it. I love it. So my next question actually was for anyone that's looking to achieve a similar physique to you, what do you feel like the missing pieces are? Now, again, within the context of like, hey, I want to get leaner, I want to build more muscle, right? Which is essentially what we're talking about here. Like, I want to achieve a physique similar to Courtney's. What do you feel like the biggest missing pieces are that you typically implement with new clients?
I think there's three pieces. There's understanding, which kind of we talked about, like the lack of understanding. There's habits, and then there's consistency. And I'll kind of like go back and break them down because I think they're all really important. So understanding is like, you don't know what's required. Like I said, like I get asked all the time, how many calories are you eating? Because they think it's a magical number, they think it's low, or what ab exercises do you do? And it's, yes, it's a combination of genetics, but it's also lifestyle choices. And for them to lack that understanding,
Right.
that is kind of what obviously I try to teach both with my clients and on my social media.
Right.
So understanding that there are a lot of elements that are involved. And then habits. I think this is something that I've really, really been grinding in with my clients lately. But it's so much more than just nutrition, tracking macros. And honestly, it's not even a workout program because I feel like the workout programs that we do, yes, exercising is very important. Strength and resistance training is very important. But I find it's of almost least importance if the other things like biofeedback is not aligned in your lifestyle.
Right.
So just break that down. Like we know biofeedback is like your sleep hygiene, stress management, hydration, bowel movements, hormones, mindset. Like if all that stuff isn't aligned or if it's not like in check, then your workout program really doesn't matter.
Right.
So it's understanding and having healthy habits and then consistency. Like it takes years. It's not going to be like a 16-week program or like a diet with a timeline. Like it's a lifestyle. And like everything that I do in my life, especially living down here, it is a lifestyle. And I don't feel like, oh, I'm on a diet or I have to be super strict unless I am in some kind of prep. But it's I've tried different approaches to all of the habits that I've had, different factors in my life, learning how to better understand my genetics from testing and everything, lifestyle habits, and then breaking like my own self-limiting beliefs. So it's just a lot of understanding, building healthy habits, and then knowing all of that has a lot of consistency as required.
I love that. I couldn't agree more. You mentioned your self-limiting beliefs there. Do you mind if we dive into that a little bit?
Let's go for it.
Okay. So what do you feel like were a few of the biggest self-limiting beliefs you had to break through?
Bringing back like 20-year-old Courtney, what she
You don't
didn't
mind.
know. Oh my goodness, because I've been through like all of the fat diets and all the workout protocols, all of
Right.
that. Things like, well, my body just isn't built to squat. And I think I was scrolling through my Instagram like, I don't know, a couple days ago, and I was looking at the video. I distinctly remember this like maybe 4 years ago, where I was squatting like barely just the barbell and I could not even break parallels. And I was like, my body just isn't designed to squat, like just convincing myself.
Right.
Or I'm sure I still hear this all the time with women and I hate it so much. And I try to be so kind about it. Is like, oh, I just build muscle too quickly. Like, please teach me your super secrets to know how you build muscle so quickly, because even as like focused as I am, it still doesn't happen. And
Right.
then things like I'm carb sensitive,
Right.
like things like that. Those are more, I don't know, they are self-limiting beliefs, but they're more so direct in terms of nutrition and training,
Mhm.
or just believing that I'm not good enough or I'm not strong enough or I just can't do it. Like, well, what happens if I try? And kind of like being indirect in terms of nutrition and training, that is how I got to where I am in my lifestyle, and literally living where I am is breaking my own self-limiting beliefs. Like, well, maybe I can't do this, but let's find out if I can.
Okay. Okay. I like that a lot. So I'm very much putting you on the spot here because I don't have
Uh-oh.
a process for this. But when you see, so genuinely just curious here, when you see like a client, you like, okay, I'm not made to squat or I am carb sensitive. How do you go about like challenging that and kind of pushing them to work through that?
Okay, so I'll narrow it to one of them. I'm gonna choose. I'm gonna choose oh, which one? Okay, the carb sensitive, because I feel like that one is more important, or more people are gonna enjoy that
Right.
answer better. So what I like to do first with my clients is kind of teach them the importance of carbohydrates.
Right.
Like how beneficial it is for your body, how you need it. If you want to get stronger, if you want to look toned, if you want to lose weight, whatever it is, your body still needs carbs. Like that is an absolute non-negotiable. You need that to survive. I don't care what the keto diet people say, you need carbs. Um, and then teaching them that, well, you've been restricting your body for so long, because most women have been doing that, that we're really slowly going to reintroduce carbohydrates into your diet. And I have gone so slow with clients where I've literally increased 5 grams of carbs in a month.
Same.
And that is the rate that they mentally need to go at. And even though I know as a coach, it's going to do absolutely nothing, it's going to build their confidence and it's going to build their trust in me. And then once I can get to that point after a few months and being like, look, we've increased your carbs, you can eat more than lettuce and you can be okay with it.
Right.
Have I ever steered you wrong? No. Do you trust me? Yes. Okay, let's do a little bit more. Let's do a little bit more. And with my clients is always about building their trust. So you're not carb sensitive. It's that you've screwed up your body and your hormones and your metabolism and everything for so long that now we need to undo all of that damage. But I teach them and I will like hold their hand and spoon feed them and like teach them as if they know nothing, because in all honesty, they don't know. They just
Right.
know the social media fuckery that they've taught over the years. And it's like, okay, well, I need to be very kind and teach them the truth.
Right.
Try not to do it in a, well, you're an idiot kind of approach.
I couldn't agree more. I was just talking to one of my mentor clients about this the other day, because I have a couple mentor clients where I like literally will look through their client check-ins every week and like, hey, I would like change your wording here. I would change this up a bit, etc. One of the biggest things I was talking to him about is just like, we need to go above and beyond, like just almost assuming that like any of these things that we're putting out, like telling our clients to do, just assuming they don't understand like the why behind it. And like you said, very much like when you educate, which it sounds like it's something you do an amazing job doing, and I know like from your social media you do, and that's something we focus on big time as well, because again, like when you educate, I think that's one of the biggest keys to building trust. Just I feel like so many people have just like seen from social media or even like other coaches like, hey, we're going to do this because like basically this is the way it is. It's like, okay, well, and if that's the case, you're not going to very much buy in from your clients. And then like you said, like you're never, because I've gone through like that exact scenario so many times with like the carbs was such a good example of that. Like it is often a very slow process, and often you're like reaffirming over and over, like, no, really, this isn't going to be okay because of this. And like, look at your biofeedback, look how you're measuring, look how much your performance is increasing. But I think so much of that too is just like on you as a coach to just be patient with your clients as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing that I've really learned, I'm going to say over the last year is like I've kind of, throughout the years, I've gone through the whole imposter syndrome, of course. Like you see more and more coaches online and you're like, well, maybe I should be doing that. I should be doing that. You kind of like follow suit. And then I don't know if you ever got to this point with it, like your social media or on Instagram, but you feel you get to the point and you don't notice it at the time, but when you look back, you're like, oh, I was talking, the way I was delivering my content, I was more so talking to people at my level. And I was talking to other coaches being like, oh, hypertrophy and you need that.
Right.
And like talking like carb cycling and stuff like that. But for the general population, they don't know what that stuff is. So my approach lately, if you've noticed, or even on my Instagram reels, like I dumb things down to like the basic understanding, because clients don't care what the heck hypertrophy is. They don't care what carb cycling is.
Right.
They just want to know where they are right now and how they can get to their goals, one, in the quickest amount of time, but two, so that it's sustainable.
Right.
So my thing lately is like, I really dumb things down, and almost to the point where my clients are like, okay, well, I'm not an idiot, because I will break it down like so clearly. And I'm like, I'm not trying to make you sound stupid. I'm just trying to break it down in the most simple terms. And if I can't describe something in its most simple elements to the point where everybody can understand, then I'm not being a good coach. And
Right.
maybe I don't understand it as well.
Right. Right. No, I couldn't agree more. I've definitely gone through that as well. I know like when I first started consistently posting on social media, um, I thought that I needed to like be the person who was constantly like citing studies. So I would be on PubMed for hours. It's like, I fucking hate this shit. Like now, like I will very much like Mass Research Review is a great resource, but like, do I like just scroll through PubMed and just like no, because it's like, but I think there's so much, again, like, or more so you probably put on yourself, but there is a lot of, it's hard to not feel that pressure. So on a similar note for you then, as far as your business and your growth as a coach, what do you feel like was your biggest self-limiting belief you had to work through?
Ugh. I don't know. Okay, self-limiting belief is I'm not good enough. I don't know enough. I'm not educated enough. I did not go to school. I do not have my NASA or ACE certification, all those like high-ended stuff. I'm not a CSCS, stuff like
Right.
that. I would say I'm very basic, and I honestly, I am a typical online coach. I have like a few diplomas and certifications, but nothing that I've spent like tens of thousands of dollars and years of debt on.
Right.
So I feel like I do get caught up in the I'm not qualified or I'm not educated. But at the same point, you do see some of the trainers or the coaches who do have all of these qualifications and certifications, but they don't know how to literally break things down into their simplest terms
Right.
and to educate a client. So for me, like I know what I'm good at, but I also stay in my lane.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I'm good at, but I always also make it very clear that I am not a medical professional, and I'm not going to like diagnose somebody if I don't know the actual answers. But I also do know that my years of in-person training plus all the online coaching that I'm doing, I know how to clearly communicate what I need to communicate to my clients.
Right.
So I did have that self-limiting belief, and I do sometimes as well. And I'm constantly doing what I can in order to further my education. I've already taken this year in 2020, I did a neuro-linguistic programming course in order to learn a little bit more. I'm doing the health mindset coaching with Casey Orvidas, if you've heard of
Oh
that.
yeah, she was on the show.
I was going to say there's tons of people going through that right now, and I absolutely love it. And then after that, I am doing a strength certification,
Oh,
which is, it's all stuff online. So of course, like the qualification or the validation, I guess, isn't quite as much as if I was getting like a university diploma or something like that. But I am constantly learning in order to better myself, and it's good for my own purposes. But then again, it benefits my business as well.
right, right. I love it. Very, very similar. I think that the podcast for me has kind of been a double-edged sword with that, because some people will come on, it's like, what the fuck, you were so much smarter. Why would anyone coach with me when they could coach with you? But then on the flip side, it's like, but they really like don't work with that many people. Or like they mentioned, like, I don't even like working with people. Like I struggle to coach people. Like so much of coaching is communication, right? Like the
Yeah.
delivery of it. I think that's been like, again, for the podcast, I feel like it's brought both sides of it out of me. Like, damn, I'm not nearly as smart as so many people out there. But then on the flip side too, like, but I know so much better like how to communicate and relate to these people, which I think like as coaches is one of the most most valuable tools.
Yes, absolutely. Stan from Better Coaching, I was on his podcast, and when he reached out to me, I replied to him and I was like, buddy, I am nervous. I said, I do not have any of the qualifications that some of the other
Right.
coaches. Like I felt like I was at the bottom of the list, but then I was like, you know what? Someone has to be at the bottom of the list. But I was like, I was completely honest with him, and he was like, you know what? He goes, I don't care what you have. He's like, you're good at what you do. He's like, you reach your market the way you do. And he's like, and I know that you're doing it properly. That's why I want you on. And that for me, like I was really nervous, but I felt so good from doing that podcast. And I know that when my clients reach out to me and they do fill out like my online inquiry form, almost like every single time they will say, I've been following you for years and I feel like we live the same life.
Right.
And that is what I want. Like that's the connection. Just like you said, it's the connection and the community and the understanding that I've been through it and I can help you. It's not that like, oh, I did a bikini competition, I'm a bikini prep coach. Like, no, I'm not that, but I have been through all of the struggles and stuff. And I want to show you that you can enjoy your life.
Right. Right. Okay. I love it. On a very similar note, you are someone that loves tacos and you seem like you have a pretty social life. How do you kind of go about balancing like your fitness, being in such good shape, and also working in so many tacos and just having like kind of a thriving social life as well?
I don't have a social life. Let's be real. I like to go to bed at 8:00.
Fair enough.
I'm fun, but then I only can have so much fun at one time. Again, honestly, it comes down to like understanding healthy habits and consistency. It's a balance, and I hate that word balance, but it is a balance. It's a balance in my lifestyle. And in 2.5 years of living here in Mexico, there's been a lot of like teeter-totter moments that I've had more balance than others. And I figure like if I'm going to live in this amazing country and live by the water and have friends that have wave runners and yachts and want to go into like go scuba diving and snorkeling and all this amazing stuff. Like, if I can't go do that and feel good about my choices, then why am I even living here?
Right.
And it's about being able to, I guess a better term from balance is integration. So it's how am I integrating these elements into my current lifestyle so that I can be happy and full of tacos, but still feel confident in my body. And I want to say confident in my body. So on the inside, not just the outside, because I think that is like a super important golden nugget that I want everyone to hear. Confident inside my body, not outside, but both.
I
I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna cut you off. I'm gonna keep going.
yeah, go for it.
I feel like you have to be, or for me anyway, I had to be rigid before I could be more flexible. And especially when it comes to like the tacos, is I did that. I learned how to track them. I understood portion sizes. I understood the macronutrients of the tortillas and everything that comes with it. I know how to order things that align with my nutrition, but I also do this because I love it. It's not that I'm attached to my macros or attached to my training, is I do have the balance. I'm not focused, even though I'm not focused on being super lean right now. So I know that I can be a little bit more loose when I do go out and enjoy meals and stuff like that. Not everything is tracked, but I do have, I'm going to say, the balance again. And I understand how my body responds to certain foods, and I'm okay with it. But because again, like I need to go out and enjoy Mexico. For those who've ever been to like Quintana Roo or the Riviera Maya, you know how phenomenal this place is. And there's still like so many hidden treasures that I have not been to yet. And to be here and not be able to have some kind of social life and enjoy the food here, it's like, there's no point in me living here.
Right. Okay. I love it. That was all I feel super applicable. I very much like how you touched on how this is essentially something that's taken you a long time, to where from an outside perspective, it would look like, okay, Courtney just does it effortlessly. Like I see her eating tacos every day, so I can eat tacos every day. Whereas like, one, context of where you're at right now and what you're trying to accomplish, but two, again, like you've spent a long time like quote unquote practicing. It wasn't like, hey, I'm just gonna like dive into IFYM, or like intuitive eating is a good example of this, right? Like I'm just gonna dive right into intuitive eating and my body just gonna tell me like what I can eat, what I can't eat, and I'll be fine. Like, probably need to like
So yeah, that's like completely the
first.
opposite, right? But yeah, without going on too much on a tangent, I love tracking my macros because it makes me feel good. And because I know that when I collect that data and follow through with that, I know how to make changes in my lifestyle, because that is very important to me, because I love it, not because I'm tied to it or it's holding me down or anything.
Right.
So for me to be able to understand how to track tacos, for example, and because those things are absolutely everywhere in this country. So for me to like have that baseline understanding and then be like, okay, let's go out and enjoy. I know how much portion sizing is here. I know how to ask for things. So I can actually go out and not feel like, oh my God, I feel overweight, or I gained all this weight, or I feel gross. Like I know how to feel good. So it did take a lot of discipline and structure and research and learning in order to get to where I am so that I can enjoy it.
What you spoke to there is generally one of my biggest arguments for tracking macros, because I think that there's still a lot of people that view it as, okay, this is obsessive, like this is too OCD. But I've found kind of the opposite for most, just like you mentioned, like tracking macros gives people like, hey, I can go out, I can eat some tacos, but also I can still like my performance goals, my physique goals, I can accomplish those simultaneously. Whereas if we don't have these tools, like you said, to like, we have the data, we have the metrics, now we know how to adjust around it. Without that, it's just so much harder. So like personally, I feel like for most people, again, it all depends on the individual, but for most people, it's one of the most empowering things you can like teach them how to do.
Absolutely. And I feel like you have to really get a good understanding, especially when people want to change their body composition, which like so many people want to, is like you have to be rigid before you be flexible. And it's not about just like eat whatever, or it's like not just go out and eating tacos and burgers and pizza and it's like, oh, I fit my macros. Yeah, but you're eating like shit. So how about like let's have a better understanding of what's important, how to fuel your body, and then start to be more loose. And then if they only want to use flexible dieting as a tool to better understand their nutrition, then kind of go off from there.
Right, right. I think we're very much on the same page there. So you design a dope life, like you said. You live in Mexico. You have your online business. Very much like a life by design, you could say, where it seems that most people almost live by default. Now, we might have already touched on this a bit, but are there some specific, like the biggest mindset shifts you feel like you made, or even mindset you already had instilled in you that kind of led you to this life by design?
Oh, there's so much more than like what people see. You know what I mean? People are like, how'd you get to Mexico? And I was like, I don't know. I just bought a plane ticket and this is kind of where they dropped me off. Like there is so much like background to that. And I
Right,
think that that's a lot of things that people don't see, or maybe I don't clearly express it, is like, I didn't go from just working as a personal trainer in Canada to, like I said, hey, I'm just going to go like live and work in Mexico. Like that was not planned at all. There was a lot of smaller, safe steps that I took before I just kind of went all in. It wasn't just like the go all in and like you're going to be okay, because people, you can't tell someone to go all in on something if they don't know how. It's
right.
like make the smaller steps. Like first I went to Cuba a lot and I went there by myself, but I always went to like a safe little resort. So I
Okay.
was like, okay, I know how to travel by myself. Then I went to the Dominican for like I think 5 weeks for a little bit. And then I went back to Canada. And then I was like, cool, I'm going to go to Mexico for a little bit, which ended up leading to me living here. But it was like the little actions that turned into that. So having like a mindset shift, it wasn't just like a go all in. It was like, let's take little steps to build the confidence. Um, but again, like it also was going all in, because once I did build that confidence and did learn a little bit more, I was at the point in Canada where I was like, okay, well, what would happen? What would be the worst thing if I did go move to Mexico or
Right,
did go live there? Like, of course, there are terrible things that could actually happen. But my mindset, I was like, okay, if I hate it, I can come back home.
right,
Like, so I wasn't planning to live abroad. I was planning to go somewhere for a month and then come back and having like a little home base in Canada, maybe at my parents' house or whatever. But I came here and I felt so good. And I was like, okay, well, my mindset shift was, what would I miss out on if I don't do this? So instead of going from like what terrible things could happen in Mexico, is what amazing things could happen. And
right,
that's kind of something like I teach my clients. It's like, well, what's the best thing that could happen? Like, yes, what's the worst that could happen, but what's the best thing that could happen? And then likely it's probably going to be somewhere in the middle. Um, and then another big mindset shift was like me letting go of a lot of things in Canada. Like obviously I let go of family, I let go of friends, clients, because I was doing the one-on-one, like in-person training,
right.
connections, community, my home. I think one of the single most difficult moments for me as I was going through all of this transition, I literally purged my life. I was living in a house with my boyfriend at the time. We had the house for I think about 3 years. So like it was a home. I
Right.
got rid of my car. I got rid of, I think when I moved down here, I had 2 suitcases. And to be honest, one was full of my Canadian protein and supplements. The other one was like a little bit of clothes. But I purged my whole life, and getting rid of all of that stuff was so stressful, but it was also literally things that were holding me back from growing and from transitioning. So there were a lot of mindset shifts, but there was a lot of like small mindset shifts that happened.
That's super interesting. I feel like one, like we could relate this back to entrepreneurship, building your body, anything like that. Like it is just very much a culmination of these little day-to-day actions. Not like, okay, I decided I'm gonna get jacked and I crushed it in the gym for a week, so I should be in great shape. I really like what you talked about purging your life as well. I feel like I had a very similar when I left the gym. Like I remember there was like a 3-month period where I very much like similar to what you're talking about, like in a relationship I was in. Then I like quit the gym, left all my clients behind. And it was like all these things were like happening, just like it was like build up little steps. And then all of a sudden, like 2 to 3 months, like, holy shit. Like I feel like I just burned so many bridges. But again, it was kind of like just super interesting that you brought that up. I'm not even really going anywhere with that, but um, I love that. So as far as like, what's the best thing that could happen from this? Do you feel like that's kind of the mindset you approach your life with as a whole?
Now, yeah. People are like, how are you so positive? And like, how are you? I always, I always try to find the best thing, because when I think about it, like, not that my life before was terrible by any means,
Right.
but living here, like, I wake up and I'm like, this is magic. Like, I live in paradise and it's
Right.
amazing. And there have been so much growth and development in my own personal life, not even from a business perspective, but in a personal life living here, that I'm like, what's the best thing that could happen today? Let's go find out.
I love that. I love that. So before I let you go, as far as final thoughts on anyone that's trying to build a life like you have. So like we talked about, you kind of have it all as far as you have a great business, you have a social life, but you're in bed by 8 p.m. You're in great shape. Are there any other major like mindset keys we could say, or like the mindset that's needed to kind of have a life like you do? Does that make sense?
Yes. I don't have my shit together. Even though I am very honest on social media and I do talk about breakdowns and burnouts and all that shit, even though it still does look like I have my shit together, I don't. And I do try to make that very clear on social media.
Right.
Um, Let me see if I can break that down kind of into different elements, because we did talk about like fitness, kind of a business perspective, and then like social life. So I guess from business, like a mindset key, I guess, would be like, do what you really love. Yes, money is important. It's not that money is not important. Like, we need this to survive. But when you love what you're doing, I find it so much less important.
Right.
Um, from a fitness perspective, make sure whatever you're doing is sustainable and you love doing it. I think that is like a huge thing, because my last bikini competition prep, I was like so deep into the mindset that my mindset wasn't there. And I didn't love it. And I
Right.
was just going through the motion. So it's like, give yourself a goal, but have support, hire a coach, but make sure it's something that you can sustain for a long period of time and that you really enjoy doing it. And then from a social life, for me, like I said, going to bed by 8 p.m., I'm really not kidding about that. It's like, know your own boundaries and don't be afraid to say no. So saying yes is like so powerful, but also saying no is so powerful. And it's like, protect your boundaries or protect your energy, whatever you want to say. So yeah, I love to go on adventures, but I know that there are going to be some sacrifices that I need to make that come along with those adventures. So I can do some of them, but when the sacrifices are too big or they impact too much, I say it's too much, and I know it's too much. So like, yes, I can go have fun, and I don't know, example, like, yes, I can go spend the day on a yacht, which is amazing, but I know that I'm probably going to be tired afterwards, and maybe I'll feel like shit, or maybe I won't eat well. And like, is that going to impact my next day? Not just from like a nutrition and training perspective, but like my own personal energy as well.
Right.
So knowing my own boundaries and not being afraid to say no. So with, I guess with that, it's kind of like, you can say yes, but have a but. Yes, but. And it's saying that to yourself, not saying that to your friends or whoever.
I love it. I feel that's all super applicable. And as a whole, I feel like there's so many gems in this podcast for the listeners. Again, I super appreciate you coming on. This has been very fun. Before I let you go, will you just tell everyone where they can find you and anything at all you'd like to plug?
Yes, you can find me in Mexico eating tacos. But seriously, Instagram, Courtney for Life with an underscore at the end. Courtney for Life kind of is my everything. So it's on I have my own podcast, my YouTube channel, Instagram, website, CourtneyForLife.com. I have so much free stuff on my website, all my freebies. And then I do a little fun thing, which actually has been wonderful lately, where people can buy me tacos. So you know how there's the whole like buy me a coffee
Uh-huh.
thing? I have buy me tacos, and people have been like phenomenally supportive, which is literally why I'm going to eat tacos every day. I've already like deemed this Taco-tober.
I
So
love
my job is to eat tacos every day and like share them. But yeah, if you want to support me in any way, I'm not going to say like go buy my online programs, but you can buy me tacos if you really want to. That's on my website, but it's also on my Instagram link as well.
Perfect. I will link all that up in the show notes. And again, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.